Okay, let the fun begin. Oh, let the fun begin. Gratitude. Let's give honor to Source, to the Creator, to the Most High, whatever you subscribe to. Let's give honor to the ancestors known unknown, to the Creator for making all this possible, making all this possible. Do I really want the phone right there? It doesn't matter. Let's have one keep moving around. You know how you had a day planned to do something? Sometimes you just gotta, your body. That's what I'm gonna talk about right now. Your body be like, my body is like, no. I tell y'all, especially after I purge, especially after like I purge, like especially after I purge like crying and stuff, having all them self-realization, because that's what solitude will do for you. Solitude, I'm realizing, like solitude will have you like, oh my gosh. I've been wanting to talk on this topic, but I had to get a lot of clarity before I did, because I'm at a very pivotal moment in my life where I'm coming to a lot of self-realizations. I'm coming into a lot of deep awareness and so forth, and about myself. And no one really talks about, like, we hear the topic of like, surviving through abuse, or, whether physically, but there's different types of abuse. You have financial, emotional, mental, spiritual, on so many levels. And I'm telling y'all, like, when you're on this journey, those who know, like, when you facing yourself, this is why I'm kind of yawning, because like one thing I know, after I do a lot of crying, or like a lot of things that are unresolved come up for me, like I either have to drink a lot of water, or I have to just take a moment to just rest my body, because what's happening for me, for those who don't know, is that your body is like going through, or what is the word? Um, you hear about like enlightenment, or the collective, the consciousness and all these things is purging. And what you're going through is a regeneration? Yeah, recalibration. Basically, like your DNA, or your body, your everything is returning to, it's almost like its original state, or original, aspect of, let's say, for me, growing up in environments where there were a lot of yelling, or a lot of abuse, whether verbally, and then seeing, being in the middle of, like, let's say my mother's relationships when I didn't want to as a child, advocating, or, all of these things take a lot of emotional, mental, spiritual, all leading up to the physical. It takes a lot of energy, and more so, it's an investment. And so when you're on a journey now, healing and facing yourself, what ends up happening is that now this renewal of these things, like I was expressing to my partner, the mother of my children, expressing to her, like, how, like, I'm more committed to this journey of loving myself, or getting to know me more, which is very vital. And in that, like, what happens is you what can be revealed or uncomfortable for people, and I'm not saying this was for her, but what it can be for other people, is that it will expose the fact of what no longer either resonates with you or with them, the foundation of, it can be very challenging for some to accept, because in your acceptance, in your, committing to your own journey, your own mission, your own purpose, and so forth, will either expose what is hidden within them. Because in your exposure, what's hidden within you, because that's what happens, is that a lot of these experiences reveal what's unresolved, which is that exposure is what's something that's hidden. So you being exposed to you, and not in the sense of like how you see people, oh, I exposed, or this person was exposed. It's just something that's hidden. And however you see it is something that can be very helpful or supportive in your growth, in your experience, in your coming home to yourself. So a lot of in the part of being in solitude is something where, again, life after being in something that you've emotionally invested in, and you take an emotional loss. It's like you invest money or finances. All of that is a part of you invest. Before the material aspect is spiritual first. So you invest in not only your money into something, and the return can be different, but at the same moment, the lesson in all of it is that you're investing your emotion into that. That's what's not talked about a lot, is that I told y'all about this hustle, this one-sided aspect of how we approach things, and not seeing the importance of even, how we emotionally invest in what we choose to prioritize. And so now, as I've said before, being in this restoration season, going through this recalibration, going through this regeneration, being restored, I'm realizing, like, in restoring that which I felt was lost, or which I felt that was scattered all over the place, through me realizing, like, having to like learning to regulate my nervous system now, with being in solitude, or the divine setting me apart to even come into this information to share. That's what's so fucking amazing about this. It's not in vain. Where times where I feel like I'm supposed to be focused on money, or focus on other people's problems, how they gonna get this. When I say I've had to recommit to the fact of how I look at life, or renew my mind around that, that has come with a different approach. Things that are very intentional. Who I allow and share my energy with, or share my space with, or what I put my energy towards, and then listening to my body overall. Again, it has allowed me to see who's really supportive of that. Like I said, in that exchange with the mother of my children, like, again, this can bring up uncomfortable things with people when you have gotten to a place where you're deciding that I don't have the capacity for right now. I don't have the capacity, because a lot of people aren't. When we grow up, we don't realize, like, after some of us, after what can happen, what I feel like is going to happen collectively, or already happening. And this is why I feel like my message is, in sharing this, is for those who will come into this awareness. A lot of people come into that self-realization how much they have been burnt out or overextended because of having a dysregulated nervous system, or also realizing how much they lived in survival mode, whether it's through societal norms, whether it's through their parents growing up, and so forth. And even the fact of I just shared something on my on IG about letting people know, like, some of us had to go through learned behavior patterns, or unconscious behavior patterns, to be able to see that it's not necessarily a mistake. It was a lesson for you not to repeat what your mother and father did. That's the cycle breaking. And the reward from that is you learning not only more about yourself, but seeing the beauty in how it affects other people. I have to have more empathy for myself right now than more than anybody else. I'm telling you, like, I just know from in learning how much I've tried to been in survival mode, I chose no longer to do it. And with that, guess what comes up? Now, certain things that come up where, again, as I've told my partner, like, I don't have the capacity for certain things right now. That's a boundary. Because I'm trusting more in what I'm building. Some people can come in and say that's selfish, and it is selfish. Me showing up for myself is just as important than burning myself out and overextending myself to where That's basically me saying I don't care about myself. Neither do I care about y'all, because if I don't show up for me, that's basically saying that's teaching my children, or that's teaching the people who are in my life, like, hey, I really don't have, this is basically what I'm saying. I don't have boundaries. I unconsciously don't know how to set them. I don't want my life to be better. I don't have balance in my life. And that's why I push the message on that. Because a lot of what we are doing is a lot of pressure from society, a lot of pressure from other people. I can hear people saying, well, how you going to live? How you going to live? First thing they'll say, how you going to survive? Ain't that funny? How are you surviving? Listen, when you in alignment, things come with ease. I know that's, what do you mean? Only people would object to that are the people who don't really know what living in alignment is. These messages wouldn't come if I was living in survival mode, because guess what? I'd be somewhere else trying to overextend myself or do something else, or even rush into the fact of, let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example. With what's going on and unfolding, someone asked me about, they needing some support with things, financially. I have to look at my life. And then I'm going to tell you what happened after that. I'm going to tell you what how a dysregulated nervous system, or a nervous system that has lived in survival, will react. I reacted immediately, and I was like, I was honest and say, you know what, I can do what I can, but I'm not going to make any promises. I can do what I can. See, what that does is that it's saying that I'm not going to overextend myself. I can only do what I can in this present moment. That's me not neglecting, or no longer neglecting or abandoning my position in my truth, to step outside of my my aura, or step outside of my vortex, or step outside of whatever it is, to make sure everything that you wanting, all of your needs is met. See, survival mode also is a fact of, when I reacted to that, I immediately thought like, man, I need to go look for a position, or man, I need to go do this. But in reality, I recognize that thought, or I recognize that pattern of that coming up a lot. I'm like, you know what? I don't have to do that. And guess what I did? I went in there, I went inside, took me a shower, and now I'm here, creating content around the fact of, first of all, if I would have made a decision and said something that I knew that wasn't authentic or in integrity, whether it pissed them off or not, whether they felt some type of way or not, which I cannot control, what could I do? I had to be honest with me first. Because then to lie or be dishonest will just create this false narrative. And then that person is going to take that seed, and then that seed is going to be planted in their mind, or have this idea that this person is going to help or support, when in reality, I planted a seed of, I can only do what I can, giving them the truth and saying, that's just what it is. Because I have to also look at my current situation. See, survival mode will have us immediately just thinking that we won't have empathy for ourselves, but sometimes we'll have sympathy and compassion for the other person. And see, that what goes into the emotional, empathetic aspect of learning self, and realizing you're not supposed to lose your own self-identity and trying to serve others. See, that's what's been happening. That's why people are at a place of dis-ease and discomfort, because their nervous system, once they start sitting down, one thing I've learned, I've experienced so many things emotionally, even in my body, certain parts of my body that was aching, certain, what y'all call sickness, dis-ease will come up. You know why? Because that's, the body keeps the score. Because that's how much in my emotional body, my parts of me that has been coming up. And I've been feeling lighter and lighter. Meaning that I'm not carrying the burdens. I'm not carrying the load. I'm no longer carrying what my mother and father did by voicing it, by speaking it. By also learning to have more compassion for myself so I can have it for them. Instead of me feeling like I have to do these things, I have to show up for me first. And if that bothers people, that's fine. Because when I was in survival mode, when I was sitting there trying to people please and live in performative, live in this performance, it was all good and dandy. But what if I've been called to do this, to be a guiding light for people to experience a more balanced or harmonious life, so they don't feel like their life is happening to them and not for them. Truthfully, life is happening for me. I told y'all before, this shit bothers people that I'm not living a life where I want to live in a dysfunctional society, family, because the root of that dysfunction is the root of a dysregulated nervous system. Hustle and bustle. I'm being taken care of because I know within me, I'm taking care of me. That's why everything outwardly I know is taken care of. That's faith. That's a sense of surety. But as I was getting into about on Instagram, when I was sharing the fact of how you come into that realization of what you built on after surviving or trying to live through, start over. This isn't talked about enough. Having to start over life completely, having to go through like a rebranding, rebranding yourself, recreating, reinventing everything that you thought life was supposed to be after not just an abusive relationship, but I ain't just talking about into adulthood. I'm talking about childhood development. When you realize that you were not only emotionally abused, financially abused, mentally and so forth, through your development of that, whether you unconsciously knew that you were taking on these patterns, subconsciously you did. So now you come to that self-realization that these learned behavior patterns, all of a sudden, you don't build most of your relationship, your home, your environment, your communities, your structures on survival. Not everybody trying to survive. You got this person trying to survive the fact of, imagine people living in a world where they don't like someone because of their color, or, and then they abuse their power by making sure that this person over here doesn't have these resources because of what they look like, because of their nationality, because of their religious belief, whatever it is. Now, this places this person in this demographic in a survival aspect, having to survive and develop a mentality to survive the world, to survive the community, to survive the family, to try to survive their fucking household, bro. Do y'all know how deep this is, bro? I don't play about this. To try to survive, all of a sudden, their community, their household, their environment. Come on now. Do you know how one of the biggest generational cycles, curses, whatever you want to call it, is surviving, especially when it's rooted in fear. This is why so many people, like I told myself, they don't even recognize what they're living in. That was one of the deepest things for me with developing, realizing, like, not learning how to navigate emotions and not having that emotional support. I had to express to someone, like, how much it is to live a life after you have had a parental guardian or person in your life that was unaware of their abusive behavior, and then for some of us have them presently here physically and still don't know, and then you have, after that person, have to continue as a child, into your adulthood now, maybe have children, and realize that this person may not ever change, may not ever want to heal, may not ever want to face anything. And then you're trying to wrap your mind or come to this deep clarity around how you have to live life with or without them, where you have to realize that, or come to this self-realization and acceptance that why you were pulled away from them, why energetically you can't be around these people no more, or why so much of the depths of how important the emotional resonance that is developed from childhood, that we develop, that we mimic, or that we reenact, whether you know it unconsciously or not. And so when you're talking about at the hands of, let's say, a mother or women who have been abused, whether before they're bringing a child into this world or during that process, and then also trying to realize, like, for some of them trying to survive the mindset that they had to have to try to live out that with a child, whether alone or even to stay in it. Men go through similar things, but to stay on the topic of the mothers, them having to survive a world outside of that, it's so deep. Because when I was just talking about how trying to live a life where the person can still physically be here, but then sometimes you can't wrap your mind and know the depths of the fact of, like, what is this emotional pull? How do I, some may say cord cutting, or how do I dissolve this? How do I resolve? But how does this dissolve? Because we're coming from generations of the warlike consciousness, or this versus this, or people being at war within themselves. And so we're breaking cycles of that shit. So now here we are as some of us are millenniums or adults right now. A lot of what was passed to us is now we're being asked to resolve. No one talks about how you have to survive a mother and father after abuse. No one really goes into depth about how women and men have to survive after, emotional or mental abuse, physical abuse. No one talks about the depths of how, men are taught not to not to speak up of the abuse they went through. Simply because the abuse of power in society, when it comes to how distorted the patriarchal and matriarchal have been, what we have enabled for it to be okay for people to be abused in any kind of way. Because no one talks about the emotional loss that dealing with the systems that have been in place and structures that are collapsing because they don't have empathy for not only the man after that, but most of the time the women. But I'm speaking, again, with the women aspect, with some of them that go through things where when you don't have a society that's built on empathy, when they have to survive or develop this survival mentality to try to survive a father after they've been abused. Not just the father they had children with, but sometimes dealing in childhood, having to deal with them coming to the awareness of being abused, and they didn't even know that they were living in survival mode. So now all of a sudden, they develop this mentality, and now they've reenacted it through another man. Y'all don't realize how collectively what we have enabled, what we have supported. There ain't been no really genuine support. Like, I was telling my partner, like, you don't realize how fucked up it is to where how immediately a woman can cry wolf on something. And I'm not saying all, but I'm just letting you know how the narrative has been twisted. Where there's naturally empathy for the woman and the child, and the man is left out there, to dry. There is no support system, really healthily for both of them. Now, people can show up physically, but when you are dealing with something in the depths of emotions, it doesn't matter how someone shows up for you physically, because there's something internally that you haven't dealt with. You can have family members. That's why you can have some of y'all in your scenarios. You can have family members. You can have people always showing up when you know shit get rough and all like that. It's because deep down, their support, what is really disguised as support, is really disguised in sometimes they love seeing you there. And sometimes they love seeing you there because it takes the fire or the attention off what they're really dealing with in their household or in their experiences. So sometimes even that person is coming in as a savior can be disguised as just someone who how could I say this, like who really again, it's almost like it's just like fake support. They'll come in and want to support in any way, but not really into the depths where it literally liberates and frees you from the unhealthy attachment to the person or environment and so forth. That's why you will have some people always come in a certain time, and it's always this similar pattern. They love to do that. I've had family members like that. Because what it is that it is something within them that it enables to keep them from actually facing themselves as well. If you like, I'm trying to make this make sense to where this is why a lot of people that they love to come in, certain people will love to come in. But again, this is a part of a survival instinct or survival mode. That's why so many family structures that are dysfunctional, they'll love to come in from an unhealthy attachment. They'll love to come in for fake support, but in reality, it's also sometimes like to make sure that no one is no one how could I say it? As long as it what's that saying goes, like you can be doing good but never better than someone. So sometimes people love to see other people situation the way it is because it pretty much enables it pretty much keeps their foundation alive to where they make it seem like, oh yeah, okay, you know what, I thought I was doing bad, but in reality I'm not, because such and such, And then what I'm saying is this is how deep the mental disorder goes, like the mental illness in family structures. You notice how people are always around when certain things happen. They're right down the street. They know about what you're going through. They're quick to tell someone something. And that's a whole nother thing that I told myself that that's another form I feel like of abuse in a way. Like abuse of power, abuse of even genuine support, like people not even really wanting to be supportive. So they will never, like, let's say you got a family member with money, they will never come in and be like, you know what, they can have it. Hey, here, you really want to get away? I have this. I'm able to give you this. Just leave. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I am giving somebody some clarity so that they can break some chains here, because you have to know who is really helping. I like to say help is not the same as support. Who is willing to support you through whatever it is that you're building on? Because when you make a renewed commitment to yourself, and again, I said it in my previous video, it will reveal who's really supportive of you getting through that cycle, of you getting through that lesson. That's why, again, you have seen society, the collapse of people who are not really authentic. That's why you can see certain shit that happen in families and group dynamics and friendships and so forth, where you have this person gossiping about this person, or you have this person go over here, sleep with this person in regards to the fact of, preying on their vulnerability. So many different things, like y'all don't even realize. Like, I can go on and on about this, because no one talks about how you have to create and reinvent a whole life outside of, what was normalized in family dynamic, what was normalized in business, whether you went through a sexual assault, molestation, all these different things where you have to learn to commit to whatever it is you're doing and having faith in that. Because that's not a topic that's not talked about enough. For me, it looks different than it would a woman in modern day society. For me, it looks different from a perspective of a darker man, an indigenous man. Because of what societal norms, belief system, the narrative that has been pushed on men who are vulnerable, who are emotional, who are authentic, who are trying to outlive what was sent to destroy them, who is trying to create a difference in how he approached his life, who is protecting and staying grounded in who he is. Even when a mother can be angry because she hasn't seen me in years or seen her grandkids. Because if I overlook the fact of and ignore because of I'm learning to regulate my nervous systems from the unresolved memories, the nightmares that have followed me from childhood, the repressed emotions of what I experienced from an unhealed person, from a person who did not want to resolve what we've experienced from my childhood and when you were a mother and a father. And in my regulating, you're choosing to uphold a foundation of a dysregulated nervous system. So therefore, I'm recognizing through me regulating my nervous system, through me learning how to come home to myself, realizing as I declutter and reinvent and renovate what's inside of me, I'm able to recognize within you what you still have packed away and continue to suppress as a mother, as a father, as an individual, as a spouse, as a partner, whomever it is. So fuck you, fuck whatever it is. If you're upset, I leave you with your emotions. Because as this emotional core dissolves, and I be grateful and I apologize to myself. And then I'm grateful, apologize to myself, and I still love myself and love you. But I love me more to face what I need to face without having to perform in which you will want me to do what you're familiar with as what you perceive in your mind for me to be your son who's just supposed to accept and tolerate your disrespect, your mishandling yourself and me. No. So in my learning to distance myself, those things that are unresolved from childhood into adulthood come up. So I can be able to see how it has affected me, affected my relationship with my children, with the mother of their children, with anyone in my life. Because moving forward, I have to now decipher between what I did not deserve and what I won't tolerate. So now that allows me to create a whole belief system upon being honest with myself and knowing what I desire. And I don't desire that. I don't deserve that mistreatment from anybody. So if no one has to honor and respect my boundaries, maybe I'm just this guiding light to show your ass, to show you what I won't put up with from anybody. And in that, one of the greatest things I can ever do through that is be able to be a bridge for my children, to show them. Because even in the fact of how I didn't have boundaries, and at times where I didn't know how to love myself, then how fair is it to them for me to continue a cycle that what you used to do onto them? How fair is it to them? How deserving of it is to them for me to bleed onto them from what happened with us? That's not okay. That just shows me that someone's neglecting something here. Someone's avoiding some type of wound here. So someone has to decide here who's going to be the one to check this shit, literally check this wound and realize how much it has been neglected, how much it has infected not only, the body of the lineage, the patriarchal, the matriarchal. I have to see what is this cure? What is this solution? And when I look at your life as a guardian, as a mother, I'm giving y'all this analogy. I have to look and realize, like, this wound, that's something that's unresolved within you, I cannot fix that shit. I do not have the capacity to keep excluding what I need to face within myself to show up for you, to overextend, because you haven't faced within yourself what is unresolved with you and your mother or your father. And then now your unresolved, your inability to process your emotions, now you begin, or you just assume, because at a time when I was innocent, when I could not and was not able to defend myself, because in speaking up, it was disrespectful. And then now then no longer where I won't be silenced. Now all of a sudden, I don't, in that part of me being innocent as a child, I was projected on from what was unresolved within you. Now I distance myself and I start to recognize that I have to give you back your shit that doesn't belong to me, because I no longer want to carry your burdens, and I no longer will. So now you're faced with the uncomfortability of your actions and that's your consequences and your karma. Now all of a sudden, I'm the enemy, I'm the villain, because I choose not to be an enmeshment, emotionally incessive super fucking hero to your emotions, to your life. As a man that was your son, still is your son, that I came through you, but I have my own mind. Of course, due to your inability to get to know yourself on a deeper level, of course you would love for me to be that superhero that always comes in and, hey mama, you okay? You need this, you need it. But never that reciprocity and foundation built on reciprocity, respect, honor, and love. So I knew you could never be capable of loving me, because you never were capable of loving yourself. Because every time, you look, it's so funny how I said capable, because when you look at a cape, you are all, this cape that you saw on me to swoop in, you never put the cape on for yourself to save you. And not to mention, for a lot of us, we never took the fucking cape off, because we come from generations or have been through things where we always want to swoop in and save the day. This is why a lot of us, even through, again, we need not that beat ourselves up from things that we unconsciously are doing, because some things we didn't know no better, just like our mother and fathers didn't know no better. In my learning to rest and honor that, it's not a form of weakness. I'm choosing to take the cape off today. In that relationship where I realized that, mama, you was performing. You was performing dysfunction. You was performing emotional unstableness. That's a word of instability. You were performing only that which you knew how to do because you didn't know any better. So all of your relationships became performative. And all of them was titled, How Abusive Can You Be? How forgetful can you be towards your own self and what was going on with you? How forgetful can you be as mothers and fathers in this world from what you have done and what you have inflicted, not only into yourself, but you refuse to see the infestation within yourself. You refuse to see what creates a disease. You refuse to see what has also not only been hurting you, but that wound has been so deep. That wound is so infected that it has infected everybody else. And now all of a sudden, when motherfuckers go no contact, when people move away, now we're choosing to realize that in our choosing to do these things and show up for ourselves, we are the fucking cure. This is righteous anger. When you realize as an individual how the fuck you've been playing a role in your mother's or father's or relationships dysfunction, how you have been enabled to support shit that has been more performative than rather than authentic and integrity, you will be so upset and angry. Because you will realize that you created a mask around not allowing your inner child to be itself, to enjoy life, but have other people to convince you that you shouldn't enjoy life. That I should show up for you more than I should show up for myself. I shouldn't pour into myself. I shouldn't have fun and laugh and oh, that's fucked up. Oh, now when I express my personality and all like this, something wrong with him. Why he talking like that? Why he speaking up about that? Because see, that's the fucked up shit about society. Y'all have flipped the shit to make it seem that people who have personality, who have aura, who are just so authentic in honoring their different personality traits, their different aspects of who they are, the different versions of them, how they're able to channel, how they're able to love those versions of them, how they're able to be who they are. And the world will classify that in this disorder, in this disoriented state, in this delusion, to make that seem like that person needs some type of, they need to be put away. But you will glorify and praise the people who are performing, who have no sense of self, who have no sense of security, who has no sense. I get it. The clarity. The world would love to see a darker man, an indigenous man like me, destroy himself, destroy everything around him. Because a man can destroy. If a man has no sense of who he is, he would destroy everything around him with his actions. Especially if he has no awareness of honoring his truth, him loving himself, him building something that is from a place of purity and righteousness, a place of integrity. So bravo. I figured you out. Bravo. All of you. All of you just a mere version of either something that I need to see, something I need to learn, or something that I probably yet haven't accepted or will accept. So bravo. Y'all gotta realize, like, again, no one talks about how much pressure is around people wanting to pull you right back into something that you have knowingly not even escaped, but continue to outlive. To know that you've healed the version of you that that person was familiar with. That individual, no matter who it is, like to recognize the fact of I know what I'm building and creating, because again, it's especially the inner child aspect is for the young men or young boys who will have to who growing up in homes that are not balanced, that are dysfunctional, that are unstable, having to have dealt with a mother who don't love herself, who don't know how. And these videos and these things are a guide for them to realize that they are safe here, to learn how to come back home to themselves, to realize that they have always been safe. You just have dealt with people who are not emotionally safe for you, bro. To the young men, to the men too. Don't matter their status and age. And one of the greatest things, especially from a man who has to daily, I told my partners, like daily accept that in my rebuilding who I am and recreating this image that the world is unfamiliar with, you know, this inner image, and then to express it outwardly, that comes with confidence and a comfortability to live in the skin, the vessel, the being that I am, and to be rooted in that unapologetically. To come back home to yourself is to come back home to the shit that you just brushed away, or the stuff that you refuse to unpack. To come back home to yourself is for me to realize, like, that little boy, that inner child was always there. But I was so distracted for trying to show up for everyone but me. What about making memories for me? And not in a performative way. What if I wanted to share to those young boys and be like, hey, I'm just going to be real with you. The things that you learning through your mom, and she really hasn't shown up for herself, or she don't love herself, you will literally be, you will reenact in a way through your relationships with women to try to perform, overextend, and forget about who it is you are, because it isn't your fault. Because it's not just about the mistakes, it's about the lessons. That's the beauty I've learned, is the lessons in knowing that I don't have to forget about the version of me that was in that relationship. I can be able to see that, how much I learned about who I was in it. Who was I? Even all the way down to the depths of when I was younger. Who was I? Because when I feel how safe I was in being who I was, then I'm able to also recognize the characters and the role that they played in making sure that that part of me wasn't safe, wasn't protected. And so my approach now is recognizing not only the energy, but being able to recognize who's the enemy of themselves. To share with the young men and women who are unaware of this. Because it can look different from a father to a daughter. Because again, you can develop these learned behavior patterns where you're performing. You just wanting to give up your body is performing. And you don't even realize you're abusing yourself. See, sometimes we think also abuse is just a form of, there is other forms of abuse like silent treatment, abandonment. I do feel like people who knowingly have children and can play a part in their life, They abuse the power to what was given them, meaning that you have given the authority and the power that you had the opportunity to bring a life in, and you chose to neglect. You chose to abandon. You chose um, to make excuses. You chose to really abuse, again, the authority you were given from a higher power to be able to show up. And in that, whatever excuse you made not to show up for yourself was the fact of you realizing you still created karma. And then now, again, after this, a lot of us to have to get out of this survival mode, because survival mode can also look like after, some of us come into adulthood, it can look like the fact of like, man, now, now all of a sudden you have a father or mother who wanted to be a part of your life, or all of a sudden, but this is my thing where I've learned through having to regulate my nervous system. There's a lot of things that have been unresolved that have come up with the memories that my body has kept. Even the fact of, let's say, someone not there physically, your body still keeps the memory of that. Because for me, giving an example, to even have knowledge that your father is out there still leaves an imprint on your soul. Because it will make you question your belonging here, and question your identity around what it is to be and become, but to never have that example or that person there really does affect a child. It really can create resentment and imbalance, because it just shows up differently as it would playing out in a man's mind logically than in a woman, emotionally. So for a lot of us, again, having to start over wherever you are can be painful, because of those painful memories of not being able to get back that time, not being able to, because it's, for me, it was painful around, like, I wanted to create memories. And that can be a tug and war, a push and pull, because you want to be able to do this with people, with your mother and father, with you want your children sometimes to even be around their the mother and father, to experience the grandkids, the grandparents and so forth. But what cannot be ignored is the fact of knowing what is unresolved. And that's why I felt like a lot of people ignore, because they be in survival mode, and they don't realize, like, through societal norms, people immediately push the narrative of, like, let it go and so forth, or just, let it go. And that's why a lot of these traditions I've known ritualistically is created like that. It's a society built around passive aggressiveness. Ignore what's really going on and forget about how you feel. I'm just, from my perspective, I cannot, and I refuse to. Because I would want my son to continue emotionally, mentally, energetically, physically, and so forth, a legacy in honor of his father restoring that which he felt was lost. That's deeper than anything physical for me. To know that my son will live an emotional, stable life because of what I chose as a father, what my father refused to resolve. Same thing with you as a woman. you're learning to see what's really going on with you. The beauty of that is that your children get to see you live through that uncomfortability, bro. I'm telling you real raw shit. It's like my kids have had to see me show up in this unstable way. I have had insecurities around finances, insecurities around, you know, um, so many different things, not just financially, emotionally, mentally, and so forth. Things that I didn't even know I was gonna deal with. Do you not realize that when you're a kid, you're just living, you're just having fun. But then life goes on. Life don't prepare you. I mean, in that, I mentioned this in my video on IG. I was saying how, nothing or no one can prepare you for, things that you went through as such where it was not in your control. It basically just highlights the people who were unhealed and unhealthy for themselves. And you in that they would never have been prepared for you as a child. Because one thing I've had learned and accepted, because like I told y'all, it's like life after survival mode, like letting go of survival mode. What comes up are those insecurities around all those things that were insecure, like things that you're not secure in. That's been one of the biggest things for me that I had to accept and I had to acknowledge, to where in not performing because of survival mode, there's certain things I had to sit with before I was gonna go out there and continue a cycle of like, let me go work. Because again, for me, in my trying to do that, there will still be stuff coming up when I'm on the so-called job. It's a performance. It's modern day slavery to me, because I look at it like the fact of the slavery mentality of what is it? Man, what was that video I made of talking about it was something imprisonment. Emotional imprisonment. Is that what it was? It was something about like how people imprison themselves emotionally. And that's what slave mentality is. Like, you're a slave to the things unresolved. And people unconsciously unaware of this because they live it out every day, and they don't realize that their pattern of having a dysregulated nervous systems are from the things that they have repressed for so long. So they'll continue this, and then they'll go out into the world and come home, having dealt with whatever they dealt with, and then bring it right back to their partners, who aren't ready, who's probably trying to navigate and manage the world with themselves. Y'all see this pattern? You talking about the fact of how a society has lived in things that have been so pushed down for so long that divine intervention is happening, to where a lot of those elders are having to either sit with what they're doing. And what this does, that also is divine intervention, to where conversations are to be held. Certain things are meant to be discussed. Certain things are meant to be that would be pushed to a side and talked about, so you can move on and enjoy your life. Man, it's a word. It's not emotional imprisonment. It's something else. It's something related to that, though. But that's also, like I said, life after letting go of survival mode. That means I'm choosing not to run the rat race. I'm choosing not to be a part of certain stuff, and it don't gotta make sense to people. But no one talks about that enough. Like I said, I'm coming to deeper knowingness about the fact of how even when we get in relationships and we carry things on, some of the shit we went through has nothing to do with that person. I had to tell the mother of my children, I told her, I had to tell her something real deep. I said, your support is not in vain. Your support is very appreciative. What I was not ready for, or what was I not used to, was my nervous system wasn't used to how you support. Ain't that fucking wild? How many of us can say that? That means like someone who's hyper independent and in more than masculine energy in an inadvertently way, or in a way of like coming from a place of survival. Someone can be in a relationship with them and they're not used to that. They're not used to someone being in overhaul like that. So that person eventually who's in overhaul becomes distressed. They become, can become, due to the fact that they're neglecting or having a balance in their life, they won't know how it is to create balance, not only with themselves, but in partnership. And that's what I had to recognize, the pattern of when genuine support probably would have showed up, or when someone wanted to support me. If you're not mentally stable, emotionally, and so forth within yourself, and having a belief system of survival, your ass will, what eventually will happen, you will self-sabotage that connection on purpose, because you don't know nothing else. You will sabotage it because of the comfortability of being in survival, more than thriving, more than to learn how to navigate outside of survival. And speaking from a man that is darker and so forth, like from my experience of in the demographics I grew up in, I was like, yo, I saw why my mom, certain relationships, she did what she did. And that's why I was telling you about like life after survival mode. You have to get away from people living in that, because what it'll do, if you're not aware of it, it will have an effect on you. And that can look different for everybody. You can have a father, again, people worked all their life, and all of a sudden they want you to do the same. They want your life to be the same way. And if you don't believe in that, then they'll pull the rug off of under your ass. I've had to deal with stuff like that. Trying to be made the man of the house young. Being in enmeshment connections. The emotional incessant thing with my mom, having to let that go because of the fact of how young I had to be responsible for everybody else but myself. So now later on in my years, I'm seeing the importance of letting go of survival mode, because survival mode would love for me to show up and answer the call for everybody. Survival mode would love for me to drive like I used to 5 or 6 hours for something, or 3 or 4 hours to do this. Survival mode would love for me to be in a relationship where, this some real raw shit. To love or see a woman, overextend herself for me because of my inability to know how to be self-sufficient, or to stand up for myself. Whew. Or to create my own stability. Survival mode will love that. So a survival mentality would love for me to love for a man, especially who grew up in certain demographics, would love for a man to just not develop to be emotionally impulsive, to disrupt and create havoc, to be a part of gang shit, to be a part of hustle culture. That was survival mode would love for me to do, because I didn't have a healthy family, so I got to go join, or being that I didn't have healthy connections growing up, survival mode would love for me to go and mishandle and misuse whomever it is, just to make sure I had shelter, food, a place to lay my head, or so many different things. But then I asked myself, where the fuck did I get this from? Where did I learn it from? Then when I look at society and the powers that ain't used to be, preying on our childhood wounds enables this survival. Survival mode would love for me. That version of me would love for me not to be able to sit here and figure this shit out. To find out, oh, you was looking for you the whole time. Survival mode would love for me to be codependent and not learn how to go within and be, connect interdependence and then learn how to be independent. Survival mode would love for me to do that shit. Because you know what that does? It will continue to create patterns and cycles of people who have the inability not to be self-sufficient, not to think for themselves, not to love themselves, not to see the balance of showing up for self and then everybody else. So survival mode would love for you and me to stay in some investment shit or some dysfunctional shit, knowing that eventually it's going to create more cycles of children who live in survival mode, who live in uncertainty, who live in fear of not having. Survival mode would love for me to be that little boy who continued to silence himself, but his inner child into adulthood. Now I'm like, fuck that. I would say it then, but then again, I probably would have got whooped. I probably would have got my ass whooped. I probably would have got beaten. I probably would have got threatened to get out the house, knowing that I didn't really have nowhere to go. So survival mode again would love for me to do that. Love for me to be around people like that. That's survival mentality. Yeah. That's how deep this shit goes. Survival mode would love me to do that. To pretend like everything's okay when it's not. Survival mode would love me not to address my needs that were never met in my childhood. Because you know what survival mode will do? It'll continue. You will be in relationships again where your needs are never met. Because you don't realize it. So that's why we get in certain connections, our needs are never met. You know why? Because our needs were never met emotionally. If you didn't grow up in an emotionally safe environment, and then all of a sudden you're in relationships where, yeah, this man can give you material shit, but he not emotionally safe for you. Same thing go for men and women. For both, or whomever you is, whether you subscribe to gender or not. Like I said, you can go build the biggest house. You can go build the biggest community. But if your ass don't know what emotional safety is, because feminine energy, the infinite aspect, the things that create longevity, that emotional intelligence, to know how to navigate shit through emotions, it don't matter what house you build. You can't see it today? Look at your leadership. Look at people right now. Look at their experiences. Where there is a lack of emotional empathy, being active, where there is no emotional depth, there is no longevity. There is no honoring the feminine archetype and principles. There is no nurturing. There is no being embraced. There is no feeling of being held, not just inwardly, but outwardly. Where's the compassion? Where's the love? Y'all know how I feel when the sun comes out. Where's the love? Where's the love? Survival would love for me to stay in shit there ain't no love there. Then how can I build on something if it ain't no love there, if ain't no empathy there? If my mama didn't have empathy, your mama didn't have empathy, nobody have empathy for her, she don't give a fuck if you run the streets. As long as she getting them food stamps to survive. Or as long as she getting this to survive. As long as all that generation before us that built shit off survival so that their generation can survive, not thrive, because see, that's the misconception. They assume that they were thriving with no emotional depth, with no care in the world about nobody else's kids but their own, with no care in the world. See, y'all don't realize, bro, in letting go of survival mode, I'm letting go of all the fucking illusions cast upon who I should be, where I should be, and so forth, how I should be. outside of nationality. You want me to be concerned more about somebody who look like this than a person who ain't even emotionally safe for me, for themselves, that look like me? They just as dangerous. You just got one who, some people are just more aggressive, because sometimes I ask myself, what have men that have been in leadership of a lighter shade, what have they survived that was never told? Because it's funny how the story is always fucking told about how they put certain people in captivity. But I always tell y'all, what did they survive? Who did they survive? What are they trying to survive? I question everything. That I told you, it's what you don't see. It's who been playing. If there's leaders that are darker and around the world, if the orders of everything is darker, who can only liberate and give a solution from where the origins and the roots of all this shit is and what it has caused? You want me to believe in my mind that just a man that was lighter have done all of this and there has been no fucking play of people that are darker? Because skin folk don't make you kin folk. Because they are playing the same fucking hand they are now. You think that these survival mode is also the people who assume that they will never be in survival mode in sports, athletes, corporations, and business. I told y'all shit. This shit is on all levels, G. This shit starts cosmically on its way to Earth. Inwardly, outwardly, however you want to see it. Are you kidding me? You got to start, the veil of how your ass looking beyond somebody in the flesh. Survival. Survival is also the fact of you coming here with your gifts and abilities and trying to realize, like, fuck, I'm glad I didn't go be a part of this. Or I'm glad the divine put me in a place where this is sacred solitude for me to be able to observe and for me to be able to see what I got through, what I did survive, that I wasn't taken out, that could have took me out or wanted to. So a part of survival can be looked at so many ways. I had to survive through things to thrive now, to realize I'm thriving. Because having a peace of mind for the divine to seclude you is something sacred. You know how many people that don't recognize the divine intervention because they choose survival mode, because they choose fear, because they choose structures that they are unaware that's crumbling? But then every time the divine steps in, or every time something is showing them, sit your ass down and rest, and so I can show you something better, so I can show you to elevate, so I can show you how to counter what's going on with you. To recognize from a distance, like, whoa, the world is living in a survival mode. Stressing over where the next dollar gonna come from. Stressing over the fact of if this person loved me or not. Stressing over the fact of certain decisions, just anything. And then still go out there and try to perform. To who? To prove to what? See, the beauty of what the feminine is, it doesn't have to prove. It comes from an unknown source. It comes from a place of it. When it is seen, whether in the masculine form, that's just a tip of an iceberg. None of you fuckers can guess who I am. None of you can figure me out. That's a beautiful thing. That's what's so sacred and majestic about this. It's just like I can wear my hair a million different ways if it was meant for me in this lifetime. And no one can figure me out. That's just like a representation. If it was up to people who were living in survival mode, they want to box your ass in. That's all this is about. Control. That's what survival mode is. Control. Let me control, manipulate. That's the opposite of what honoring the feminine is. Because now when you really honor the feminine flow, it's just like me honoring the emotions that came up for me to get clarity that was a gateway to create in this video, which is in a masculine form. See, those unseen things that I was going through, you knew nothing about until I share it in a masculine form. Ooh, wow, that was divine insight. Look at your children. They reflect everything about you and the divine and source. No one knew how that child was going to look. That's what makes it the feminine form, the feminine archetype, the emotional aspect of who that child is that's developed in the womb and when it comes out. How the children are mostly made up of the mother's DNA should tell you everything about balance, about who really is in reign, about what type of energy particularly has the power in navigating what's going on in this world. That's what the rise of the feminine is. The rise of the divine feminine and masculine energy is to be able to recognize what was trying to be controlled. One of the most difficult things as women come, especially mothers and grandmothers, whomever it is called, is you're navigating through that survival, what kept you in survival mode. That's going to be one of your greatest lessons, because you're going to, in your navigating, it's going to show you. It's going to show you your children if you have anything. It's going to show you your learned behavior patterns. It's going to show you your maternal lineage or the matriarchal. It's going to show you every aspect of you and in the versions of what you're becoming. You're going to recognize how abundant you really are and have been. That's why I don't be worried about nothing. It don't be until someone comes along and through their interactions, through their experiences. That's why I tell you about partnership. When you can be surviving something in a fucking relationship, don't even realize this person is basically, their belief system are rooted in survival. How to try to survive the world. We came here to enjoy the world. The powers that used to be wanting to convince your ass that here we are trying to survive Earth. Survive the world. And in survival, people, their belief system is rooted in fear, and most likely the fear of death. The illusion of that shit. Worried about, now I gotta get this together. I gotta make sure this. I gotta make sure that. Man, for some reason, those who know who's in alignment, I just be knowing how everything taken care of, man. It may sound wild. It don't gotta make sense to you. But this is why the main reason why the matriarchal is attacked is so that women don't come to this self-realization and get this clarity of, look at the cycles of your fucking womb in your body. The flow. How everything flows. How you, and we're naturally in tune with nature, with everything. Why is it an attack on your anatomy, your autonomy, whatever, your body so much so? Why? On your mind, on your structure in your life, on your sovereignty and your freedom. I tell you why. Because these moments, the rise of this energy, as y'all get back into the flow and restore and go through these things, to learn to honor your emotion, your intuition, to honor the feminine aspects of you first, and then prioritize that, collapses everything. Collapses every structure that was built for you to be in survival. Because all of which, again, we all played a role in, whether we knew it or not. Why does certain communities get certain resources? Now that the table is turning, now that shit is collapsing, let it play out. The importance is you knowing your role through. Let it play out. Y'all gotta realize, like, the divine only showing y'all people's hand right now. Who been doing shit under the table? Let it play out. Let that shit play out. Because once you attach yourself to that situation because of your survival instinct, you will only cause yourself suffering. Let it play out. How? Through all of this, I'm going to leave y'all with this. How, through all of the grand scheme of everything that has happened, there are certain people that still come along, and the message and the energy behind the message is such an alignment with what the bigger picture is, rather than the ones who try to distract you from that? Why hasn't, no matter who's been removed or attempts to be taken out, why has shit continuously gotten better? Why are there certain people as messengers, whomever it is that come in, why are their messages the same? Why are they coming along saying, oh my God, it's going to get better? And if you pay close attention to what you give your energy to, it already is happening and unfolding. Why y'all don't ask yourself, why is there some people who always come with this divine insight, and the only ones who are threatened by it are the ones who try to invade it, or try to intrude, or try to disrupt it? But those who be knowing know that the bigger picture is that the time is up for that. And the knock is going to keep getting louder and louder. The message is going to become clearer and clearer on who it is you are, what you're here to do. Because it's all about seeing the bigger picture. See, survival mode will have you just looking at the right now. Not saying don't be present, but just looking at your current circumstances. How you can survive. How can you make sure this and this is taken care of? But as you be restored and become in alignment and balance, you will realize that had to happen for a reason. Your perspective changes. You start to counter. Because some of survival mode will have you thinking about the worst possibility, not the infinite possibilities or the multiple scenarios that could possibly happen, even the best and highest possibility of something great happening. I'm living proof of it. I'm experiencing it right now. Because I chose to keep my mind, my spirit, and put my emotions towards life happening for me and not to me. So that everything happens for my greatest good. I keep telling myself, everything works out in my favor. No matter what happens, everything works out in my favor. And to some people, favor ain't fair. And the only reason why they feel like it ain't fair is because they don't feel like they're favored. I am the Most High's favorite. And you are too. We all have favor. We all are what y'all call chosen. It's when you choose to realize, like, yo, I have to have favor and be covered and be divinely protected through whatever it is, because sometimes you have to ask yourself, when you ask yourself why, ask yourself, like, when you be like, why is this happening to me? I ask myself sometimes, like, not even just why not, like, wow, like, why, like you just like, why not? Why not? Or why couldn't this happen to me? Like, what's keeping me from embracing the fact of, why should this be impossible? If I'm here, if I'm sharing this message, if I'm doing these things, again, in that, outside of that fear, is the courage to make a commitment to yourself to show up for you, and realize, like, that isn't a sign of weakness. That's not a sign of weakness because you want to change your mindset and do things completely different than your mother and father, or you want to deal with a different career, or you want to invest in more of yourself or whatever. That's not weakness. That was just confusion that the world was trying to distract you from getting to know you more. So, yeah. Is that all I want to cover? I feel like it is. So, y'all take care of yourself. Again, PTSD research, and then these are talks about PTG, post-traumatic growth. You know, changing your mindset towards, like, the positive aspect of things. Like, you know what? I'd rather put my mind towards something that you know, everything works out me for my highest good, that everything is happening for me. You know, everything I wants me more. Like, you know, I'm magnetic. And in that being magnetic comes from the fact of, like, when you're around people and they felt like, you know, it would seem like friction, you'll become more magnetic as you distance yourself. They'll never tell you that. They'll never admit to it. But that's what that feeling of it seemed like, the spotlight is on you, the attention is on you, and so forth. Because that's how you become more magnetic, because of you won't be as accessible as you was. Because I told you, a lot of us grew up around people who were, we were so close to at times that we could not see beyond mama's intentions, daddy's intentions, the family's intentions. We couldn't see past their opinions and, you know, what they said about us. And we couldn't see past what they said. What is that saying? You can't see the forest from the trees. And so that's the thing about seeing the bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture in someone's life. No matter what's going on right now, there's a bigger picture to all this shit. Only people with the small-minded, or wants to dim your light, or wants you to make it seem like nothing great can come from what you're doing, they watch me right now. They'll watch you right now. We were told, myself and my partner, knowing that people could have supported through things, which is okay. It was just for us to see the bigger picture, regardless of people supporting or not. Same thing with my life. I had to believe and know beyond the fact of whether people support it or not. Being almost, when did I start my YouTube? This year will be 5 years in, consistently, of seeing the bigger picture, of knowing what the vision was given to me years ago before I started. I know what was shown to me. So with that, I had to go through the integrity. I had to go through getting prepared. I had to go through knowing that this is a part of your calling and your purpose, because there's going to come a point in your life where your message is going to reach nations and billions of people. And then you got to also see beyond. I had to learn to see beyond the fact of, it's not about likes, it's not about clicks, it's not about views. it's about the fact of, on a deeper, genuine level, on an empathetic level, that some things are supposed to happen, and seeing the bigger picture in your being supported by the divine, you also will be supported by others as well, that will that it will basically be in a bridge for your being here physically, and then beyond that, like, you know, seeing the youth, like it's so many things for a lot of us. Is well, for me and some people who are in tune, is way much bigger than this superficial shit like status and money and certain things. And reason being is because we know we the shit already. Like, the spiritual currency is vital, because the spiritual wealth from things, and the emotional wealth, the wealth that is perceived here on earth, is not the true and authentic wealth of you knowing who you are through navigating through life. You knowing that you came here to experience it, enjoy it, to learn how to love yourself again and to be loved. That shit don't come with a manual. That don't come with a degree. That, I'm being honest, that don't come with a career. That don't come with none of that. Someone trying to tell you. They don't come with religion. They don't come with all that stuff. People trying to tell you how you should be, what you should be, and so forth. You came here knowing what you were supposed to be. You came here to remember. You came here to relearn through that. So, yeah. And then with that, it becomes more easier. It becomes like not just like a thing you master. It just becomes so, it flows. That's how I know the alignment is there, because at a point in time, like, I can tell when I was burning myself out with certain things, trying to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, with certain things. But I was being shown through a lot of things, through the how you can, when you honor the flow and be in alignment and you're structured and you're true, it'll seem like you're 10 steps ahead. But also, when, you know, time is an illusion for some, but when they say your time is coming, or when the wheel spins around, the wheel of fortune, or when certain things happen, it happens in divine timing. That's why I don't question nothing. I always know I have enough, because I am enough. I already be knowing how things are taken care of, because I take care of me. I had to learn that, because people who stress over realizing where certain things and how stuff are going to be met, it really reflects their internal world. It really reflects, like, how are you showing up for you? And I seen it play through relationships and partnerships and so forth, because again, it's not a judgment thing. It just shows, like, from personal experience of knowing someone who, like I said, could have grew up with daddy money, who could have grew up with money and so forth. And then the divine intervention will take you through the fact of, maybe the divine said, I don't want you to be a part of that, because you don't know the corruption, or you don't know the character or the integrity behind that person. And then I want you to build on something where it brings people together beyond the fact of how much you can accumulate money-wise. Let that not be the first thing. For some people, that is the first thing, and you're seeing it in the world. So what that can bring up for you, for some of you, is a financial insecurity, because you were sometimes unconsciously codependent on the father to show up, or a mother, or somebody. So it will force you to see the spiritual currency. It will force you to see what you have to build on within you, that no one can take away, or no one can financially abuse you with, or no one can throw up in your face. You know, there's so many things around that. And with that, and what you're building may take longer, but it's going to be so rewarding. And another thing I would encourage is looking up the importance of delayed gratification. It's not looking for instant gratification, not looking, because through that, in what you're creating, I'm telling you from personal experience and seeing it with other people too, is how so many things unresolved will be brought up to why that relationship the way it was, whether it's with a father and mother and so forth, to why in that you're reinventing, recreating your character. you building off of integrity, and it exposes what's hidden within them. So that which you build, whether it's that business, through entrepreneurship, through whatever it is you're doing, you build it with something that you water. And then it's patience, to where, again, how I have to learn after survival mode is that survival mode would have, if you were in survival mode with stuff, that it will keep you in places where you feeling like you deserve the mistreatment or to be mishandled. And that's what survival mode, or this a mental disorder, will have you believing like this is okay, this is normal. Especially if you hadn't grew up around people who did not love themselves and did not honor their truth and so forth in the society and structures. So it will have you rebuild and reconstruct things from a place that is unfamiliar to them. It's unfamiliar to society. It's unfamiliar to the community and so forth. And so attacks will come with that. People showing their abusive tendencies. Basically people showing where they were not loved or received or embraced. And so their familiarity with you is this idea of trying to make sure that you stay close. So this is where they may pull the rug and make sure you don't have the finances. And this happens on all levels. Or sometimes they may feel like in your inability to do whatever it is, or they feel like you're not capable of it, they won't support. They'll monitor. What else? And this is where, again, where integrity comes in, where you have to go through every emotions to get to where you are. That's what consistency and persistency does. That's what showing up for yourself is going through and seeing the uncomfortability of why this isn't happening to me and so forth. But it's all recalibrating and you reconnecting to that inner child and building a healthy relationship with yourself and with your higher power that wants to see the good, the great happen for not only you, but the empathy that you develop through that wants the best for all. That's what you'll be able to see in other people when you go through shit. When you realize their heart is going to be revealed. Their hands are unclean. You'll be able to see through the fruits, the seeds that they planted. Because all money ain't good money. But you still can be able to learn how to transmute that. Whether certain things are given to you or certain things where people have impure intentions and so forth. So yeah, it's going to be asking of you where a version that was familiar to them, to the world and so forth, a version of you through evolution is going to be asked to be something that's unfamiliar. And in that, another deep thing is like, you're going to have to realize, like, fuck the acceptance of other people. Accepting you first is what's matter. Being at peace, like the great Nipsey said, would you rather be at peace with the world and at war with yourself? Or would you rather be at peace with yourself and at war with the world? That happens on all levels. Because you start to recognize these people are at war with themselves. Ain't shit what they got going on got nothing to do with you. And that's what a part of the bigger picture is, to be able to see. Beyond the fact of what everybody else got going on. My daughter go through her own emotions. And I can't go within her and be like, hey, can you decide to be happy or sad? And I've actually did that before. Sometimes when I realized that my emotions, I wasn't emotionally safe, I can see how through my inability to connect to my emotions at that moment was to be like, why are you crying? Or stop crying or something like that. Sometimes we try to shut the shit down and then realize, hold on, I had to catch myself. Because survival mode will have your ass shut down, shut away from the world, from everybody else, or even going around people with a dysregulated nervous system, don't even know why the fuck you feeling the way you feel, uncomfortable, because this person energy in a relationship, or this person energy that even though you moved on, or even though you go around this person, man, that look familiar, that sound familiar. Because that energy, that person carried can be very familiar to what your mother and your father or someone else. This is why I had to learn through setting boundaries. This is where I had to learn how, like, where people, and it wasn't so much cutting them off. It was so much of where this shit don't resonate. I got to move on from this. Something's going to open up. I have to be patient. I have to build what I have to build first before another door opens, because I'm telling you, that shit happened with me in relationships. Where the more I start loving myself, standing up in what I will not tolerate and so forth, creating boundaries, I start to tell myself, like, hold on. Either this person ain't recognized that ain't love, or that ain't authenticity, that ain't integrity. Then, you know, uncomfortable things, whether you can be in a relationship, whether you can be partnership, business, and so forth, which, again, due to survival mode, people stay in shit for survival, to pay their bills, to live a life. All this stuff, instead of outside of the fear of rebuilding something and having patience, they're comfortable with that. But me, I'm the one, I ain't going for that. And so I had to have the patience in knowing, like, you know what? I'm going to have the opportunity someday to build my home, to create something, to be in a position where this is what it is, and not from a place of control, from a place of integrity and love and authenticity. From a place to where children, you know, my kids and moving on, you know, they will know the importance of being rooted in their truth. You don't need my acceptance. You may seek reassurance because you're learning, but you didn't need my acceptance. You don't need my validation. And that's very difficult, especially from women who didn't get that reassurance from a father figure or from someone else. And what you see enabled out here is this on social media. Oh, I got to say this, another divine insight shit. Oh, my God. You see men reassure these women in their fucking behavior. And then those women ain't even, again, survival mode. They're making a living, or what they call making a living. Instead of living, they making a living off of, you know, shit that ain't really longevity. And like I said, it ain't about counting nobody's pockets. I'm showing you the balance between honoring the feminine aspect in an authentic and integrated way. Some people out there doing it. I can't tell people what to do about how they want to do what they do on whatever it is. I'm showing you the balance between the fact of how we can enable shit that we don't want, and we get more of it. And then when the shit crumble and collapse, why are we surprised? Because things are shifting. The world is shifting. You start to recognize who is influencing what, and from a place of what? Survival. Not thriving. Not wanting better for everybody else, but from survival. That's what you see in family dynamics. In order for certain people to thrive, who, you know, and want to feel like they the big one in the family because they making this and have that, they think they thriving, but they don't want to see everybody eat. So they in survival mode. So let them take their survival ass over there, survival of the fittest, and eventually what's going to end up happening, they're going to turn on each other. I see it all the time happen in family. Turn on each other. They're going to turn on each other. It always happens. Because somebody going to think they in competition, their ego going to get too big, they going to say some shit, they've been repressing shit for so long, and all of a sudden, boom, catastrophic. But I'm going to tell you where I'm going to be. Ain't around it. Because that's the beauty of realizing that when you let go of survival mode, you start to realize what was fucking fueling, what was keeping the shit afloat. When in reality, it was never keeping it afloat. You saw people drowning. They was drowning in what they did not resolve. They were drowning in what was repressed. They've been drowning in their depression of their emotions and what was they kept suppressing throughout the years. They were drowning. And they wanted to scapegoat through your ass, looking for you like a raft, or, you know, for you to build a bridge, or for you to throw the thing out and be like, hey, can you say, hey, where you at? And then all of a sudden, when they didn't learn how to fucking swim, when they could have learned how you had to Because that's how I look at emotions in your subconscious. I had to learn how to swim. Because I kept diving in trying to save everybody else. And then motherfucker try to pull you down. No. I'm going to sit here and watch. From a place of empathy too. From sympathy. And then knowing when to come in. Because you were swimming in water. You was born in water. A lot of y'all fears ain't even y'all. This is some subconscious shit. You was born in water, boo-boo. What you afraid of? You afraid of your own emotions. Learn how to swim. Learn how to adapt to your environment. That's how life teaches you. That's why children can go anywhere and still have joy. Adaptation. Whew, boy, this clarity be. Well, they say, motherfucker burn a bridge and don't even know how to swim across. No, that's over with. That shit done. I'll know when the divine will give me insight, but in the meantime, in between time, I'm loving on myself. I'm resting. For some of y'all got to realize in your departure and letting go of certain shit, bro, them people still gonna be there. Just like the club. Just like that corner store. It's still gonna be there. You know where they at. That's one of the biggest things I had to accept. In your, like, living your life, you got to be the guiding light for some people. Bro, live your life. Sometimes that's the thing that people need to see. That's their inspiration. And when they're ready, they'll be ready. That's how I also had to accept, too, to do shit solo. To invest in self, to balance. Do shit solo. Step out. When they're ready, they'll be ready. But in the meantime, some people still got to go through lessons. They got to learn things. That's one of my biggest things I had to learn in survival mode is you can move away but still have those survival instincts. When you try to learn to regulate your nervous system and you go into a neighborhood, you move somewhere and shit look familiar, boy, them survival instincts are peak. You have to remind yourself, oh, shit. Okay. Breathe. You ain't in the hood no more, or you're not here no more. You're not, you know what I'm saying? Your mental, all that. That's a whole other part too. I'm gonna talk about that. But y'all take care of yourself. I love you. I see you. Peace and bliss and shalom.